Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Appleman, founder and CEO of Appleman Properties. Today we've got Alex Alexander on the show with us. Alex has mobile home parks and RV parks, a total of 8, with a purpose to acquire and develop even more in the future. Alex, if you could let everybody know a little bit more about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Josh. It's a little bit about me. I've been working on this RV thing, and I'm really focused on the RV parks now. That's what we've been working to really niche down, and really a specific type of RV park that we buy and a certain one that we change it into. So, a little bit about me. I live here in Texas. I live in Dallas, Texas, and I grew up in a little town of Midland, Texas. And so something a lot of people don't know about me is I buy RV parks now. A lot of people call them trailer parks. Well, I grew up in a real trailer park in Midland, Texas. So I knew this industry from being a kid. And now here you go, getting close to 50 and actually in the industry owning RV parks. So there's a little something about me that you'll be first one to hear that on your podcast.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, that's huge. That's a success story, because now we've got from the ground floor all the way up to now you're owning and managing and even buying more. And I'm very, very interested in our RV parks, because there's a wave coming of RV parks are becoming more and more popular, and even towards a workforce housing solution for affordability. If you could elaborate a little bit more about some industry insights that you know.
Oh, for sure. So the industry is going through the roof. And one of the things we say is that the boomers retiring was like throwing gasoline on the fire, because the industry was already in an upswing. The big producers of RVs were just cranking out industry records, like just blowing away records with how many units they're selling every year. And so the market's already on the way up. Then the boomers retiring. This is a big thing I talk about all the time, and everybody should be paying attention to it. We have 10,000 boomers retiring every single day. So let that number sink in for a minute. That's 70,000 every week. And it's going to be like this for the next 5 years. So the boomers retiring has already started, and that's a big part of this. So the boomers are retiring, selling their fixed asset, their non-liquid asset of their house, which a lot of them see dipping down in price. The more of them sell, the more the price dips down. And so this is a trend that's growing, and it's as the economy goes down, RV parks go up. So we're counter-cyclical. And whenever I realized that it's recession proof, that whenever the economy goes down, we go up, and that's been that way for 50 years. That's one of the reasons that we got into RV parks. So you were mentioning, I want to go back and address what you were talking about for workforce housing. Now, we personally don't do that. There's about 3 or 4 different styles of RV parks. We personally don't do the workforce housing. We've looked at them before. They can be very profitable, but we're trying to focus in and niche down, not even just on RV parks, but RV resorts. So we really are niched down to that's our focus. That's all I focus on. That's all we talk about, so that whenever we compare ourselves to somebody who does 5 different things, like say you do multi, storage, mobile home, and RV, how are you ever going to know more about it and be more ingrained and have the knowledge in the industry than I am? Because you just don't, you're split up. It's what, like we were talking about before the call. If you're split up among 2-3 things, you're splitting your attention. I like how Hormozy talks about it being attention drain. Like there's only so much attention. And if you have 3 buckets that all get, say that that attention is liquid, it's in your brain, this liquid attention is there. Yeah. And it's got a tube that goes out to a bucket. You start adding in more buckets and the attention goes down, the ability, that juju, that juice, all the creativity. Yeah. So that's been a big focus for us, is just stay on just RV parks, find a very specific model to buy, and a very specific model to convert that into. We've got that set. I mean, our buy box is tight. We know exactly how many acres, exactly how many spots, all the different requirements. And then we go in, and what we're basically doing is, we call it's a private equity roll-up play, which means, private equity is that's what a syndication is. Syndication is a small private equity. So anybody who doesn't know real estate, or if you're in real estate, maybe there'll be a little tidbit in here for you. But private equity used to be only Goldman Sachs, only Wall Street. It was the big guys. And in 2017, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act came out and created this part of the IRS, Section D, 506, ABC, all these different letters. These are syndications. And so that allowed small folks who just needed to raise not 100 million, but maybe larger, like 5 million, 10 million, 20 million to buy apartment buildings. It's been really popular with apartment buildings. And so we'll talk in a little bit about a wave that we see coming of folks who are interested, that come from the multifamily space and have become good sponsors, realizing that this asset class is really on an upswing and they're getting into it.
Yeah.
So back to why it's in an upswing. COVID hit, and like I said, the boomers coming into retirement age, that threw gas on the fire of this industry. Then you got COVID, that was like throwing a nuclear bomb on top of this industry. It just blew up the industry and made, if we thought the records were getting blasted away before, they're getting blasted away even more now. So COVID really made it popular. And here's one of the things I think, and I'm pretty sure this is why. People, okay, let's back up. You know how you go to restaurants now and you have that little code that's on the table and you take a picture with it, the QR code, and that all started during COVID. Well, that technology's been around for like 10 years.
Yeah, the
The
touchless
technology wasn't brand new.
Yeah.
Like you've seen it before, right? Before COVID.
I do like the dividers that are still up in the restaurants between tables. Give a little bit more privacy.
I like it. Well, anyway, so those little QR codes, those weren't popular before, and you barely saw them. And now every single restaurant has to have them because everybody was required to have them. And so it's almost the same thing with RV parks during COVID. People wanted to vacation, and this is one of the very few options. So it's almost like they're required. If you want to go on vacation, here's your options. You can do one of these things. And so they tried it out. Here's the really interesting thing about RV parks, camping, outdoor experiences. And I'm going to tell you why it's so important, because it ties into my personal mission as well. So RV parks and camping, it's a family activity, and it fosters really good family activities. And so I have a kind of an above average interest in neuroscience. And so the chemicals in your brain, especially whenever you're in relationship with other people, get affected dramatically. Yeah, all of it. Yep. Vasopressin, oxytocin, all these things that make you feel good. So here's how it relates back to, we're going from RV parks to neuroscience. Here's how it relates back to RV parks. Whenever you go and you park an RV, it is technically camping. You got to hook up the sewer, put out the slides, you're outside, so you're in a different environment. So it creates all these tiny little tasks and tiny little teamwork tasks that a couple can do together. Then you throw the kids in the mix, more tasks, more little things to handle. Now, men and women have two different kinds of chemicals. Women have oxytocin and men have vasopressin. Both of them have both, but these two are kind of prevalent in men and women. Women get oxytocin, that's real popular. A lot of people know about it. It's a bonding chemical. When you feel love, it's that family chemical. And so I'm doing a bad job of explaining it, but that's my bro science, the way I understand it.
That works.
And then you go, men have this chemical called vasopressin. And it gives us the same effect that bonding feeling like women have, but it comes from stressful situations, not comfortable situations. So whenever you're like in a stressful situation, like a task that you're working on together, like taking care of the kids while they're outside, all the experiences that you're going to have on a camping experience that bonds the family together. It makes the man have vasopressin, which is going to bond him to the wife. The woman is going to have this oxytocin whenever she sees the man doing tasks with the children. It's amazing how it draws families together. And so all of this knowledge, whenever I dug in and started realizing what was going on, it helped me to form up and solidify my own personal mission, which is to empower fathers to connect more deeply with their children through these outdoor camping experiences.
I love it.
So go ahead.
The science behind the business, that's huge. And there's actually a science behind it. The dopamine, endorphins, and everything else that goes on. Yeah.
And then, and to add to it, to show how that's growing. So that's how people, they try it one time, they have those feelings. I mean, people want to do what feels good, so they're going to go back and do it again. Now, let's go to it's the same situation. It's the same family. They just started RVing this year. They tried it during COVID, and now they go, once every 3 or 4 months. So father and the mother are getting closer now. And the wife of the neighbor wife sees this happening. and realizes that it's because of the RV trips they're taking. Now, all of a sudden, the neighbor has an RV too. So it really is spreading. It's really a popular activity. Anyway, the numbers back it up. So we've got the American RV Campground Association. They've come out with numbers showing that the fastest growing groups who are staying full time in RV parks are millennials. So we've got the next biggest group, the next fastest growing group are those who make over 6 figures. So we've got a ton of people who are not just retirees trying to chill out. We got millennials who are living their life on the road. And a lot of them, here's one situation we know. We got people that we know that do this kind of thing. They'll have an apartment in a town and they'll go back there and stay there for like a month, like a cheap little apartment. And then they're on the road for maybe 3 or 4 months. Now you can stay in some cheap places on the road and campgrounds, and you can stay in some nice places, but it's not a lease. You don't have to choose some place and stay for 6 months or a year. So the millennials, you know how they talk about you're going to rent everything and be happy. And that's really getting popular because people are like, why would I own all this stuff? I want to like rent the place that I'm living and rent the car that I drive. A lot of people are even talking about I rent the clothes that I wear. So, you know, we rent our office spaces. You don't have 6-month and year-long leases. You just go get a WeWork. You can rent it by the week or by the month.
Yeah.
You can just rent it by the hour. And so that convenience, people like that. And that's constantly going to be gaining in popularity. And the more people that see RV parks, try it out, they're going to do it more and more. And if you listen back to like Gary Vaynerchuk in about 2019, you could probably find this if you go search for it. Gary was talking about, he goes, I'm not doing any real estate. I got financial guys that do that part. I just focus on my advertising media thing that I do. But if I were going to be looking forward and getting into what's going to be popular in 5 years, which is now, he said, I would go buy 10 to 20 acres within 45 minutes of a major metro because people want to get out of town. People want to get out, get into nature. They want to get out from their phones. They want to get someplace where they don't have good internet service and just for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And so that's an RV park.
That's huge. That's huge. Let's talk about some nuts and bolts. So how many acres does it take? I'm trying to convert acres to pads. How many pads do you need for a RV park to be successful where you go over the equilibrium of expenses and profit?
Yeah, there's a little bit of the secret sauce in here that I teach in my course and such, but I'll give you kind of some hints at it. One of the big things you got to pay attention to is septic, because you're talking about how many acres you have. Well, that's not all buildable acres. You're going to have an office building. You're going to have roads. You're going to have septic. You're going to have setbacks. All this starts to eat up your land. So 10 acres very quickly becomes 7 acres.
Yeah.
And then, you know, so a lot of people, you can get from 8 pads per acre is really nice and spread out, humongous. And then 14 is ridiculously tight, bumping up against each other. 11 seems to be pretty good. 10, 11 is some of the numbers that we use whenever we're looking at it. Only in the basic underwriting part. By the time we're getting into real underwriting, we bring in a consultant. We've actually got a consultant that specializes in this, and he's a unit mix consultant. That's one of the things that I offer as a benefit of working with me, is that I bring in my team of experts that, quite honestly, you wouldn't even be able to get on the phone with for the next month to 2 months because they're just booked up. They're not taking new clients, but I'm already their client.
Yeah.
And you know how it is when somebody's already paid you, you pick up the phone.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah. So anyway, that's one of the things that we do. We bring in our designer, and so he's going to be looking at unit mix. And so that's part of the feasibility study and the market study that we do with the expert. And so he's done 1,300 RV parks.
What would a unit mix be in an RV park? We're not talking about 1 bed, 2 bath, or what would it be?
Okay, so the way we set up units is there's pull-throughs, there's back ends, there's premium, tent sites, cabins, apartments, kayaks, boat rentals, life jackets, firewood. You see what I'm getting into? There's ancillary income.
The value add component.
It's through the roof. The extra income that you can get from all these small things goes through the laundry room, just like with a multifamily. You know, you have all these add-ons.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you start to do value add. But the basic unit mix is a back end. That's probably going to be like your cheapest one. Back end, long term. That's cheaper because it's back end. It's probably usually whenever they're back end, they're like over at the edge of the park. They're kind of farther away from the amenities. And whenever we have our designer, that's how they set them up, because those are the less expensive spots.
Yeah.
Then you have your pull throughs. Now these are going to be longer. They're usually for your A-class vehicles, which is that's how they're Class A vehicles is what they call them. That's the big ones that look like a bus. And so you have a pull through, so you're not backing in at all. You just pull in, plug in, and you're good to go. And then we offer a lot of times a pull in premium, which is that same pull in side. It's longer, it's bigger, it's wider, it's nicer. And then we'll put like a cover over the picnic table. We'll probably have like a stone fire pit. And so a lot of these, we'll just add in some premiums. Here's the really interesting part, and I'm glad you asked about unit mix, because we can change up the unit mix like that. Like if you built a hotel and you built the square footage of each room way too big, you can't just shrink it. Or if you built multifamily, say you built an apartment and it's all 3-2s, and then you build it and the market shifts, the economy shifts for some reason, and now you need all studios. Well, you're going to have to go in and spend a fortune to remodel, and it's going to take the time and the loss of opportunity and all those kind of things. With us, we log into our software, we push a button, and we change our unit mix. We raise our prices, we lower our prices, and we make it dynamic. So the same way that you pay more for your flight today than you would have paid a month ago, that's the exact same thing we do with our dynamic pricing. So at 50% occupancy, our rates increase 10% per 10% occupancy increase. And so what that does is it compounds on itself, and over the course of a month, that'll get us double the top line. So we can double the top line just by putting in dynamic pricing, yield management, revenue management, and we have all of that automated inside of our software with our property management company.
Nice.
So a lot of times now you've done multifamily, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So how important is the property management?
It's a key component. Well, we actually have property management in-house now. It's how important it is.
That's what we did too. We call it third party in-house.
Yeah. I mean, it gets the business plan executed. We can control our expenses. We fill the all of the leaks, and we drive margin through efficiency. The unit mix. That's at what? Let me start with this. What is the expense ratio on RV parks? Are we 30%, 40%, 50%? Okay, so we're 20%.
That's where we try to get under.
Okay.
That's about average. We're trying to do better than average because we don't have. Here's some of our tricks. Like I said, I'm giving you some of the secret sauce. So anybody who's out there watching,
give it away, because
this is the really good stuff.
Yeah,
So,
give it away.
Yeah. Okay. Now ask me the question again.
The expense ratio, because then that goes into your how much occupancy you need to stabilize the.
So we have our property management company set up to they get paid after the expenses get paid. So we pay them a percentage after the expenses get paid.
Okay, so they're directly tied to the NOI.
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah, so they have that incentive on increasing NOI and the incentive on decreasing expenses.
Yeah.
But the expense ratio is what you were asking about. And the way that we keep it down is we have, and this is the secret sauce, through this software, we don't need an on-site manager. We don't need somebody who's there taking money. So our on-site manager, we pay them very little because their responsibilities are very low. They're seriously just eyes and ears, and they report back to the property management company, who is central. And so with one property management office, we can manage many different RV parks, and we just need a lower paid employee on site because everything is happening online. They book their reservation online. They don't need to pay anybody when they get there. Whenever they get there, they go and they park in their site, and they're going to automatically get an email the day that they arrive and a text message that says, we already have your card on file. Click here if you'd like to have firewood delivered to your site. We'll charge your card, no problem. As soon as they click it, now the on-site manager, which we call a camp host, because they're a host, they're more like social. The camp host is going to get a text that says, take firewood to unit 2. It's all automated. It's all simple. So that's how we keep our costs down. So a lot of people have come back and say, well, how are you keeping your costs so low? Well, that's some of the secret sauce. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, and that's being vertically integrated. That's where you keep your finger on the pulse and you know how well that property's doing because you're directly involved. That's a huge advantage. And it comes a point in time where you have to look into that. You want third-party property management at one point, but then you kind of need to sway into getting in there and doing it to drive the business.
It's almost like you have to grow to a certain point until you need it from somebody else, and then somebody else takes you to the next point where you need to take it in-house.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's hypothetically, I found an RV park, great opportunity, but as far as finding an operator, you're really taking the operator position out of the equation. You just need a campground host who's responsible and reliable, and can be there.
And you'd be surprised how many we could hire, or we do a lot of stay shares where their work stays. So they'll be there for like 3 months because the duties are so minimal that you don't need to be like a full-time employee. They'll work like 10 or 20 hours per month.
Yeah.
And so they'll just kind of help out a little. And that costs us almost nothing. It costs us a little bit of electricity and the sewer that we're going to use anyway.
So when you're taking on, you all don't do outside property management, I wouldn't assume. You do all of your own deals and manage your own projects.
We have a couple of people asking us right now because they've seen how we do it. And so I actually have a call later on this afternoon. This fella is interested in us managing 2 of his parks. And then we have 3 in the pipeline that we're actually working on a new kind of system. I'm not going to release this one out. This is too much of the secret sauce.
Super secret.
Super secret, but it allows us to get into a property, get the financials, really get the due diligence we need to raise the money. And it gives us a long 6-month escrow. So what we did is we solved like 3 problems all in one, which is most of these RV parks, like almost all of them, are owned by the boomer generation. It was very acceptable to have way old business practices up until just now.
Yeah.
Like literally just now, it's becoming, the wave is starting of people who are actually putting up a website, online booking. Imagine you go to their website and it's nothing but a picture of their sign with their phone number. And that's what most RV parks have. Like 80%.
Yeah.
The same percentage that's owned by the boomer generation. And so as they're retiring, 10,000 per day are retiring. That means 80% of the RV parks on the market right now are going up on the block in the next 5 years.
Has the herd showed up yet to RV parks?
No, we are way early on the wave. RV parks today are what storage parks were 25 years ago, and they're what hotels were 80 years ago. So you got Conrad Hilton comes along and he decides, I'm going to start a private equity group and do a roll-up play.
Yeah.
And so that's the words we use for it now. So he looks out and he says, I'm just going to buy this little hotel, mom and pop, make it, put in all my Hilton best practices and make it a beautiful place, remodel it, and then it's going to make way more money. And then they have a whole chain of them. So that's a private equity roll-up where they're just rolling up companies.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. And so one of the ways that we've been doing it is working with people who want to learn how to go and find RV parks and buy them. But I teach people not to go find the ones that you can get now, because the ones you can get now with your money are not going to make you money.
Yes.
20 RV slots, that bigger is better. Bigger is going to make it happen. 20 RV slots is a road to $80,000 a year and 80 hours a week of you doing it. You change the sewer line. You fix the problems when somebody backs into one of your power poles or breaks off one of your faucets and you got a leak that's flooding your entire RV park. That's going to be you at midnight on your child's birthday.
How many units?
You know?
Yeah, that's I need around 35 units before it even becomes worth pursuing on an apartment complex, because once you implement property management, this and that, it becomes pointless. On RV parks, how many spots do you need before it becomes fun? We'll say
100 is the golden ticket.
Okay,
that's going to make you money, and below that down to 50. 50 is pretty low. That's pretty much our minimum that we'll even really look at. we actually take a look at a lot of properties that aren't even in our buy box at all, because one of the interesting things is we always look for a value add, which means we need extra land to build onto. Well, a lot of RV parks, it's two parcels, two brothers, whatever, some relationship where they have two parcels next to each other, and one guy built an RV park and the other one just has this empty land. And a lot of times you can buy both.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that we kind of look at. That's one of the reasons whenever we're building lists, I work with my students and even the ones that don't fit our buy box. Sometimes we go back and we cruise through the list, and you'd be surprised what you find whenever you go back through the stuff that you've kind of already thrown into the trash bucket.
Yeah. And I'm seeing listings coming over from Northmark, and it might not be some of the bigger brokerages now for camping RV parks. And that's when you know the herd is starting to come in, and and then they sell these off of a 6 cap. Can't make money off of a 6 cap.
No, well, they should be selling up to private equity at that point. If they're selling for a 6 cap, so we underwrite to buy at a 10 cap and sell at a 10 cap because that's conservative for us to sell.
Yeah.
And so it's a super conservative underwriting.
Well, they sell it at 6 cap, and then they say, well, you can do this or that to get it to a X cap.
Yeah. Well, I don't even mess with them. We don't look on the listings we look at. Just don't make any sense at all.
Right.
You know, you put the broker.
And I say that just because when the herd does show up, it's like a lot of these could be great deal, mom and pop deals that could be good and fruitful. They just get essentially ruined just by being the wrong listing.
Well, it seems like that's what's been from what folks are telling me that are coming into my course now. That's what they're running away from in multifamily.
Yeah.
And so they're finding that one of the kind of the success of the guys like Brad Summerrock. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, I am.
So very good teacher, amazing trainer, really good at syndicating and really good at training people how to copy exactly what he does. I've gone to seminars and there'll be 3 people back to back, and you can tell that they're all 3 Brad Summerrock, and that, you know, the presentation is exactly the same. It's perfect and so good. And he's gotten so good at training and so good at sales where he's selling training. Yeah. And now we've got like just an army of multifamily investors. And so that's been driving the price up. Yeah. So as the price gets driven up during these interest rates, because there's competition, so now there's more buyers, there's less supply, and the interest rates shrink down that the profits were just barely making it. But you got so many people in the market that are like, I've spent this money on this training. I got to get a deal. I got to make a deal happen. Even this one that's real tight, it'll be fine. It'll go through because they're new. So they think nothing's going to go wrong. They buy it. Now the interest rates are gone up. They're way upside down. Yeah. You know, I've been hearing stories from a ton of our LPs that they, you know, first it was about 6 months ago, they started getting emails saying, hey, not going to be able to make distributions this quarter. Then the next quarter it turns into, hey, your distributions you were supposed to get are now going to be capital calls. So it's not even like you're going to get that later. It's actually gone. Your distribution you were supposed to get, that's actually gone. And then now the letters are starting to roll in saying we're not sure we can pay our bills. And if we can't pay the loan, we're going to default. And not only is your profit gone, but your actual principal is gone.
Yeah. And a lot of people went flooding into the gates of syndication with zero business ownership experience. They've never known what bad looks like to even know what good looks like. So it's there's going to be some interesting times ahead.
Yeah. One of the big plays that we've been working is that we knew if we got in early, we could create this moat. Yeah. Because with us having such a large portfolio of specific assets, whenever the popularity does pop off and there's like Brandon Turner's talking about RV parks all the time. And I mean, they just came out. I think Bigger Pockets just did a article kind of to the last subject, multifamily meltdown, that was pretty interesting. Yeah. And so it just goes through all the same stuff we talked about. What's going on in the economy? The interest rates really pinched people, and having a flood, too big demand and not enough supply pushed that price up.
Very cool. If somebody's wanting to get into real estate in general, how would you recommend that their path forward would be?
Get with a coach for sure. That's kind of like the most basic information that you can get. You get what you pay for when you go get a coach. It just like any kind of training, just like any school or college or whatever. So I go and I would get the best coach that I could find and just stick to their system. So
Yeah.
whatever system that you choose, and you might not even have to go pay a coach. To tell you the truth, I did it. It'll take longer. Just go on YouTube. Go watch all of my videos. I've got I got 40, 50 hours of videos that are business instruction videos like this, just going over specific numbers, case studies. Go watch Josh's show. I know you interview people like this all the time, right?
Yeah. And a coach, you're not just necessarily in it for the coaching. That's a part of it, but there's contacts that the coach brings along the way. So if like you had said, your consultants that you've been tried and true with, you know the good from the bad. You're not out there trying to figure it out. You've got a coach in front of you that's already mulled the path down and it's already tried and true. It's a path forward. So coach is more than just a coach. It's contacts that go along with it. What books would you recommend?
I always recommend the 48 Laws of Power.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down. I've not heard of
Yeah.
that one.
Oh
So
man, you
I'm
got to
huge-
get on
I'm
it.
huge in books. That's 48 Laws of Power.
So there's the author of that book is Robert Greene. And he has 4 books that all of them are amazing that I think you would love. 48 Laws is probably a good one to start with. It's pretty thick. It's pretty thick on information too, kind of dense, but he calls himself a historical journalist. But this book, I'll give you kind of the cliff notes of it. It goes over how people have achieved and maintained power through history. So we're talking about Machiavelli, and we're talking about Napoleon. And so a lot of these, and we're talking about Coco Chanel, and we're talking about con men, and we're talking about great conquerors throughout time. And so a lot of the techniques are terrible. They're like narcissistic, just horrible techniques. But the reason to read the book is not to learn these techniques to like put on to people. The reason to read the book is so you can recognize this stuff and learn how to deal with it and learn how to realize that people are playing these power games, whether you know it or not. We all pretend like we're not, but everybody is.
Yeah.
And everybody's getting the results from it. So it's a really great book for that. Mastery is really good. That's one of his more advanced books. He's got The Art of War, The Art of Seduction. He's a really interesting writer. So
Nice.
that's the books I would recommend. Anything by Robert Greene. And behind me, I actually have 3 of his books that I got leather bound. Here's the paperbacks are down here. And up there are 3 of his books that I had leather bound that I just really like his work.
Yeah, it's
And I had it
incredible.
inscribed with my name and my core values.
Well, and it's a book that resonated with you. There's books that strike other people differently than others, and it's just if you take away one nugget from a book, that could change the trajectory of your life. It's huge.
Oh, it could change your entire family tree.
Yeah, that is a fact, my friend, for sure. Alex, you're a wealth of knowledge, and I know you know what it takes in RV parks. If anybody wants to get a hold of you to talk about RV or talk more about you and learn more, how can they get a hold of you?
Our company is Paradise Park Ventures. So that's the website, paradiseparkventures.com. Ventures with a V, not adventures. Maybe I should have named it that. Everybody thinks it's that. But yeah, that's how to get a hold of us. That's our website where we invest in RV parks, and it's got contact to give me an email and such.
Awesome. Alex, I appreciate your time. I look forward to following your journey, and we'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon.